But for now, old friend of the program is back. He only shows up Mondays. You know, some people say I don't work weekends, I don't work Sunday. This man only works Mondays. Without further ado, let's hit his music.
And now it's time to open up your ears and
only shows up Mondays.
MMA fans, it's time for Rick's Picks.
I'm not sure why.
Rick's Picks are lots of fun.
But it's good to have him back. Nevertheless, by the way, big day for old New York Rick. Of course, Michael Heck wrote this song for him many moons ago. 5-6 years at this point. I mean, everyone loves Rick's Picks. Not a lot of picks going on, but we'll get to that.
Rick's Picks.
Yes, there he is, the one and only. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you, my friend?
Oh, yeah, look at this. What did you want to say?
Nothing.
Okay. I mean, what a show so far, right? I mean, you talk about a who's who. I feel like you want to say something.
No. Talk to me.
What's so funny? What's going on? What? Because GC's in the back there? I mean, who framed this up? I mean, it looks like that meme where the guy's coming for the other guy from the back.
Isn't that the Undertaker and
Yes. I feel like there's another one.
AJ Styles?
Is it? Yes, it is the Undertaker and AJ Styles. What a random one that is.
How are you?
I'm great. I mean, just talked to 5 legends in a row. Mazel tov to you and the social team.
Yes, big day for the social team.
Big day. You got the MMA fighting handle on Instagram.
That's right. If you're not already following, go follow at MMA fighting on Instagram.
Approaching 1 million followers any day now.
We're getting there any day.
I mean, I would say, do you think by the time Misha Tate fights, you get to 1 million? Or is that?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh yeah, we'll get there. Shout out to Jose, Alex, Casey, Esther.
Yeah,
everybody
back.
who's
holding it down.
Run the account before I hopped on.
I was told on the Slack channel you've been taking a lot of credit for that almost 1 million, even though you've only been here.
Who told you that on the Slack channel? Let's air them out.
No one said that. I'm just stirring the pot over here. Okay, we have a lot to talk about. I'm still kind of buzzing over Jordan Burroughs. I was talking to someone. I won't name names. I was asking someone in the wrestling business. I was like, "Do you think he fights?" Like, nah, he's not going to fight. I feel like he's sincere.
Listen, I mean, if he's saying he wants to test the waters, I want to give this one go, see how it goes, and then go from there. I think it's reasonable to expect that he can find a promoter to give him the fight that allows him to try it and then see where he's at. I'm with you. If you're a promoter out there and you can't find a way to get Jordan Burroughs a fight, you're messing up.
Like you're haggling this guy over 155, 170. Get that. Make it 169. Make it 163 and a half. It's Jordan freaking Burroughs. There's very few guys who have crossed over from the world of wrestling into MMA. I would say he's on the very short list, right?
Yes.
Gable's done a good job. He certainly doesn't have the resume that a Jordan Burroughs had, but like even the dude.
You're talking about Olympic level wrestling.
Yes.
You're talking about.
Yeah, like who else? I mean, even the guys like, look at the attention that we place on guys like Bo Nickel. AJ Ferrari. These guys, they're nowhere near the level of Jordan Burroughs. Like
all great wrestlers in their own right, but Jordan Burroughs is one of the, as he said, one of the greatest wrestlers who's ever walked the planet. We have to acknowledge that.
Dustin Poirier is wearing his shoes.
That's right.
For God's sakes, like they're MJ's.
Yeah,
unbelievable. Okay, let's go back to Saturday night. Max Holloway, Yair Rodriguez, 5-round fight, incredible stuff. Should Max Holloway fight Alex Volkanovski next?
I think Max Holloway's in the driver's seat of this conversation.
Wow.
I think he has
not
the
a
options.
definitive yes?
No, because I think if Max Holloway wants to fight Conor McGregor, as he's kind of been teasing, let's not say like calling or alluding to, because he's been throwing out multiple options, but if he wants to fight Conor McGregor, I think he will get that fight. I think that's a fight. There's two people in the dance, so Conor has to kind of want that fight as well. But I think Max is in the position to be offered that fight if he wants that fight instead of a title shot. I also think, as he's rightly pointed out, he's a win over the 155-pound champion, so that option could open up for him if Oliveira remains the champion. Also, let's not forget that the fight between Dustin and Max the first time was a great fight. Certainly, I thought Dustin won that fight, and no controversy or anything, but it was a good fight. I wouldn't mind seeing Max versus Dustin again. So I think Max Holloway has a lot of options as he's kind of laid out. So if he wants that fight, I think certainly he deserves it and should get it. But I think if he has his eyes on something else too, I think he's the one in control of that.
Okay, so if you're the UFC,
Yeah, if I'm the UFC and I want this to happen relatively quickly, then I think, kind of waiting on Conor McGregor doesn't seem like the best option if we can turn Max around quicker than that. I'd be interested to see how the lightweight title plays out. There are lightweight contenders, so there's certainly a number of people are in line for that. Justin Gaethje being one of them. I think Islam Makhachev has looked good enough to earn that opportunity. So I think Max's name is in that mix, but the fastest path to a big fight for Max Holloway, I think, is the Volkanovski fight.
I mean, I just think, okay, forget about what Max wants. I mean, if I'm the UFC, it's the only fight to make. If I'm
At featherweight, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For him. And if I'm Volkanovski, it's the best and most high-profile fight. Volkanovski's never been more popular. Holloway is certainly at a very, high level in terms of his popularity. And, we used to debate Benavidez DJ all the time.
And I would always say, and I have said and always said, give me that fight infinite times if that is the best available option. If that is the fight that there is to make. So I certainly think that Max Holloway is 1A in that division. Volkanovski, I would watch them fight anytime. But I think it's Max's where he wants to go, what his career is going to look like from here on.
Maybe the more interesting thing is what does Yair do now? And of course, he's going to be out for quite some time. But I feel like he's got numerous options. Brian Ortega, you could always run it back with Zombie if you want. I hear he's nursing an injured shoulder at the moment, but you could always do that. Calvin Kattar, the forgotten man at 145 in many respects is Arnold Allen, who is 8-0 in the UFC, which is insane, and we don't talk about him enough. He's kind of like the featherweight version of Leon Edwards.
Yeah.
And they're both from England, of course. 10-0 in his last 10 fights. Giga Chikadze, like those names are all great options, I think, for, Yair.
Yeah. I feel like Yair has been out long enough that there's been a new crop of fighters that he could potentially face. So I don't even think, you have to go back to the well with Korean Zombie. There's new names, I think, for Yair, but I also think he established himself, and I think there was a bit of a hesitancy to put him in that upper echelon just because he hadn't done it against that level of competition yet. Max Holloway is a 1A or number one in that division, and the competitive performance that he put on there, I think, firmly establishes him in that top of the pecking order at featherweight.
Okay, so you're the social media master.
Sure.
I'll
take that.
I mean, the resume speaks for itself at this juncture. As a social media master, what do you make of the deleted tweets? I mean,
just in general, like everybody.
Conor on Saturday. I mean, some zingers, right? Some good ones, and then
let's talk about one in particular.
Okay.
Let's talk about the first one where Conor says, big fight for Max or big time. Max is a big time fighter. Daytime show at the Apex. We posted that to the MMA Fighting Instagram page, and you'd be surprised how many people thought that there was a genuine respect there. How many people were replying that like this is him showing his love and admiration. You just had to wait 15 minutes until he fired back with how many times Max Holloway's been hit in the face and best boxer.
Wait, you're telling me the jabrones on Twitter, something went over their head? Just like, Dana White 75,000, what was it? No, it's 750,000 on the prelims. Yeah. Like, come on.
No, never. What do I make of the deleted tweets?
But by the way, I have to admit, that was a good zinger. That one was a good one.
Shade.
Yes.
The epitome of shade. No, at this point, deleting tweets for somebody who's in the stratosphere of Conor McGregor is insignificant. He could have left them up. You could have deleted them. It's all the same because they will get enough play and people.
But why does like Jon Jones used to do this all the time? Like, what's the strategy?
He still does it, yeah. That there's no record of it.
But there's always a record. If you want to trace it
back to the page, but there's always a record. I think it's almost a status thing at this point. If you are somebody who is powerful and known enough to post something, delete it, but it still lives on forever, that says something about where you stand. And Conor McGregor and Jon Jones stand in a certain level in this sport that they can do that.
What'd you make of the? I don't take it. Some people take it so personally, get all fired up, like the one where he was, pacing. Yes,
yeah.
I just thought that was funny.
I thought it was funny too. It was a little bit intense, a little bit, a little bit not what we're used to. But yeah, I mean, look, that feels like Conor McGregor to me. I'll say this: Conor McGregor has shifted into his Twitter account has become a lot of things about title and McGregor Fast and Proper 12 and things that he's promoting and supporting and utilizes. the stuff like this is just a little more of a glimpse. Like, this feels like the real Conor. This feels like, hey, I'm sitting here, Max is about to fight, I'm pacing in front of the screen as if I'm facing off with him. This feels like the real Conor, and anytime we can get a glimpse into that, that is what I would prefer to see.
This is way too premature because, of course, he probably has at minimum 6, 7 months, 8 months before he can get back in there.
Yeah, he's been talking about how ahead of pace he is. What I hope does not happen, and I'm knocking on wood, is I'm fearful where we get a situation where he's rushing it too fast and then it takes him out longer. I hope that that's not what we're seeing, and I hope he really is on a path to a fast recovery because, as Michael Chandler said, the sport is better when Conor McGregor is competing.
Lest we forget, he came back from an ACL in about 11 months.
And beat Max Holloway on a
and then
ACL.
and then came back and looked great.
Yeah.
And then fought Dustin Poirier like 3 months later. But less than 3 months, 2 months later. My question is very premature, but if you could book the ultimate return fight for him,
Nate Diaz.
it's still Nate.
Nate Diaz.
It's not Chandler. Chandler's stock super high right now.
Hey, look, I'm not mad at that fight. Don't get me wrong. I would watch Chandler and Conor, but it's Nate Diaz.
Interesting.
Conor and Nate.
I wonder if Nate's around by the time he's back.
It's a good question. If Nate is available, that's the fight. If not, I will definitely take Chandler. I would definitely like to see that one.
It is interesting when there's a big night of fights and, people, we're all on Saturday, we're all glowing about Max Holloway. You have Nate pops up December, right? Like it seems like these guys are at home sometimes and they see the love and they want in the mix as well. They want you to post a little graphic on it. You know what I mean?
It's an opportune time.
Yeah.
The attention of the world is on social media, is on the sport at that time. Why not take your opportunity? Look, they did not get to this spot by accident. And as I said, there's certain people who have that attention, who get that attention, who move the needle, to borrow a phrase. Nate, yes. Conor, they are two of them.
Okay, let's talk about hesitant Herb, as
Yes.
A.K. Lee calls him now. Great guy. Never met him. No, I actually did meet him. But he is a great guy. And one of the best in the history. One of the best in the history of the game. There's clearly an issue here. There's a confidence issue. I was talking to Lloyd Pearson, who is an MMA manager, but also represents the NBA referees. And he's represented them for quite some time. And I was like, hey, by the way, what do the referees do every year, before the season? Like, is there something to refresh their skills? Is there this or that? There's a 1-week seminar before every season for the NBA refs. And I know, they get paid differently, all this stuff, but look, these dudes, creme de la creme, every year before the season starts, 1-week seminar, they go over everything, new rules, old rules, brush up, this, that. And I feel like MMA or, combat officials, it would behoove them to do something like this. Now, I know Andy Foster has a monthly thing and this and that, but it's clear that he is off his game. And it's clear that he messed up on Saturday. You can't mess up like that when you're Herb Dean at this point, right? Am I being too harsh?
No, I think you're accurate with that. I would say to the idea of brushing up on the protocols and the procedures and things like that, I imagine at this point in his career, Herb Dean knows all these things. I would imagine that no amount of sitting in the classroom or seminars, and I would wager, I bet he does his own seminars. I bet there's plenty of things that he attends like this. I don't think that will be the solution. I don't think that will be the thing. Would it help other referees? I imagine so. I think it would be valuable. I think it's an in the cage thing.
So what do you think it is? Just a self-confidence thing?
I would be so out of my depths to pretend to know the answer to that. I couldn't even
That's
begin.
what we do on shows like this. We pretend to know crap that we don't really actually know about.
But I can objectively say that, yeah, that was a problem. That was a problem. And I think, Dana White after the fight said, Herb touched him.
He's 100% right.
And that was the problem. That is it. You can't touch the fighter there, and then back away. You astutely said, make the decision, right? If it's the wrong decision, that's better than indecision, right? Oh. Absolutely, no doubt. So make the call and go with it. That's all I can say from an outsider.
There's nothing worse than an indecisive referee, right? And we've seen them before. They go in, they go out. It's like, there are people watching this right now. Like, they're all going to see it. Plus, the fighter just felt you touch them, and they're told that if you step in there and touch them, to stop.
Well, the worst case scenario of this, right? Like if we're playing this out, the fighter who's losing the fight or in a compromised position could take more damage, and we've seen that, and that's happened.
Yes.
But what could be a worst case scenario that I don't know if we've seen or maybe rarely is if he touches that fighter or a referee touches that fighter who's winning, and they stop, and then they get knocked out, submitted, hurt, whatever that is. That could be the worst case scenario, right? Because they were in position where they were on the verge or at that point that the referee touched them had won that fight, and then it flips. That would be a really, really bad situation. And I don't think, fortunately, I can't recall off the top of my head, at least not at the highest level, this kind of thing happening. But if enough times of indecision, it could. It very well could.
What's crazy about it is he is Herb Dean. I mean, it's like John McCarthy, Herb Dean, top 3 greatest ever, top 4 greatest ever. The performances, I don't know, performance seems like a weird word now as an official, but like, you know what I mean? Like this shouldn't happen to someone of his stature who's been in there so many times. Like you miss stuff here and there as a ref, it's understandable, but the indecisiveness, the insecurity out there to me is baffling.
Yeah, we're starting to see enough of a sign of a trend here, but I think it's really important to point out, and you pointed this out at the top and have before, but it is really important to point out that it is a thankless job.
Yeah.
The hundreds and hundreds and thousands of times he's gotten it right are not going to be recognized in this position, and understandably so. Like we're pointing out an error, we're being critical in this situation, but they're, for the most part, we are getting the best. But it is hard when the mistakes are made, and most of us, can recognize that the mistakes are being made. It becomes a difficult conversation to have. Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know. And again, you hope that there's discussions afterwards. You hope that there's
review.
A breakdown. Yes. Hey. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure at this point he knows what he did wrong, what he did right. I know he's somewhat on social media, so he probably knows he messed up. What was weird about that to me was Marcos Rogerio de Lima looking back at him. He's like, "Hey, you touched me." He's like, "Yeah, I touched you." Well, what? What does that mean? You let the action go on.
Yeah.
At that point, that's why it's weird to say premature. But at that point, it felt a little premature because the action went on and it looked like Rothwell was okay at that point. But had he just stopped it when he touched him, I don't think anyone would be talking about this. All we would be talking about is, wow, what a win for Marcos Rogerio de Lima.
That would have been the right time to stop it. And if it had gone on a little bit more and got stopped right after that, fine as well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had much of a problem with it. But the indecision, the touching and then moving back is the issue.
So like I said, overall, a very exciting night. Anyone that you wanted to shout out from this past Saturday? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot. But, you had Chaos Williams with the big win, who we just talked to. Fascinating guy, by the way, Chaos Williams. What a backstory. Felicia Spencer, who I think you once proclaimed would be UFC champion, hasn't quite.
That's not quite how I said
not?
it. What I said was Felicia Spencer is a legit 145 pounder and a legit 145 pound contender. And I think that's proven. I think at this point you can look around this landscape of 145 and look at Felicia Spencer and be like, she's clearly at the top of that division. Can she beat Amanda Nunes? That's a tall order. That's a tough task. But I believe Felicia Spencer is one of the best 145 pounders in the world, like a legit 145 pounder.
Joel Alvarez looked good. Andrea Lee, Sean Woodson.
It might be Joel Alvarez if we're really talking about who made a statement on Saturday. I mean, granted, you have to almost like put Max and Yair on the side at a certain point. Joel Alvarez looks like the truth, man. Now, he has to get his weight in order. I know Islam Makhachev was saying it was nice to see new blood in the division. He has to be in the actual division to be new blood in the division. So he needs to make weight. But if he can, man, that guy looks like the truth.
Another reason, by the way, to campaign for 165, you got Jordan Burroughs, who's like, hey, make a 165 for me. I don't know what's going to need to happen for them to just go 155, 65, 75. I don't see why anyone would complain about this, but that's not going to happen anytime soon. I wanted to ask you quickly about Chris Cyborg, who won on Friday night in Hollywood, Florida. Fun little Bellator card. Chris Cyborg once again steamrolls through the opposition. Sinead Kavanaugh clearly not quite on her level. Cyborg has looked very good in Bellator, but there's not a lot of competition for her. Now it looks like Kat Zingano could be next. That could be interesting, but she hasn't been all that, active as of late. And so you wonder if, she's been fighting enough at 145 to really give her a test. I think she'll give her a tougher test than some of the others in Bellator. But the big one was Kayla Harrison, who was sitting there. By the way, to me, look, what I had heard was, and I said this a few weeks ago on the show, I believe that there's a very good offer on the table from PFL for Kayla Harrison. I also believe that PFL is going to try and break the bank the most to, if that makes sense, to keep her because she is arguably the face of the promotion. I don't think it's that arguable at this point.
Yeah.
They're also at the end of their TV deal. You want to go into negotiations with streaming platform A, TV network B, and say, we have Kayla Harrison, the 2-time Olympic gold medalist on our team. She's not leaving, right? You need those chips. You need those faces. You need those draws. And so I think they're willing to spend the most on her. However, Bellator putting her in the front, A, but B, most importantly, John McCarthy asking Cyborg the question, to me, tells me that Bellator is interested and will make a play. I asked Scott Coker about her afterwards, and he said he is sincere, and he believes she's sincere in her interest. Do you think this is going to happen?
Yeah, it's hard. If I'm putting myself in Kayla Harrison's shoes, mother Kayla Harrison, to provide for my family, I don't see an easier path to money or less road bumps in the path to money than continuing to rack up $1 million checks at PFL. Take your purse, walk through the tournament, and just continue to rack up the $1 million checks. It's hard. It would be hard to turn that down if I was in her shoes. That's how I'll put it. I could now look. I know Kayla Harrison is one of the elite competitors in all of sports. Man, woman, it doesn't matter. She is one of the elite competitors we've ever seen in sports. You want to test yourself against the best, but at the end of the day, you got to put those checks away. You got to put those checks in the bank.
I wouldn't begrudge her. I always think it's weird when media members are like, "Oh, she's got to go to the UFC." Like, guys, you want her to go to the UFC for 80 and 80? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I get it, but I get the perspective of I really need and want to see Kayla Harrison versus credible opposition is a legit one, and I do too. But if you're in her shoes, it is hard. It is hard to turn.
100%. By the way, I would love to see Kayla Harrison versus Felicia Spencer.
Yeah.
What a fight that would be, right? An appropriate fight, I think, at this juncture in her career.
Absolutely.
Kayla Harrison versus Norma Dumont. Bottom line is, if she does re-up, which, by the way, I don't think anyone should hate on her. Like you said, mother of two, get that money. The whole point of this game is get paid, go home, be healthy. Please just make it at 145. Like there's something about her fighting at 155 that has just become incredibly unappealing. If they at least cut 10 pounds, and she's done it for Invicta, there's a bit of a challenge here. Now, the scale might be the greater challenge than the actual fight itself, but there's a little more intrigue, in my opinion.
I don't disagree with that, but it is funny. We were just talking about Jordan Burroughs, like, do whatever it takes. Just let her fight at 155.
But she's done it. She's done it. He hasn't.
It's more of a challenge. I'm okay with that. Unless there is opposition that is 145-pound coming over into the PFL. And to be honest, like, I'm looking at this, the PFL is going to have to fill out that roster. If you're a 145-pounder, your opportunity may be there. It's time to start thinking about that as a viable option for you. If Kayla Harrison is still there, that means that division is still strong. That means that there's an opportunity for you to compete and potentially face Kayla Harrison, win $1 million. The playing ground, the field for where 145 goes depends on the players. And right now, Amanda Nunes is in the UFC at 145. Cyborg is in Bellator at 145, and Kayla Harrison is at PFL at 145. There are options for 145 pounders. It doesn't necessarily have to be Kayla Harrison goes to the UFC for an exciting 145 pound fight to happen.
If anything, I would say that the best 145 pound division in MMA is actually in Bellator.
Yeah.
They have the most 145ers.
There's an argument to be made, certainly. I wouldn't dispute that.
I mean, you have Julia Budd going over to PFL.
PFL, yeah.
I'm just saying, if she resigns, and I think ultimately she will, although I like the fact that she's playing the field. She was at UFC a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Bellator, maybe she shows up at the one card this weekend. Who knows? She wasn't at AEW Full Gear. Did you watch AEW on Saturday? It was fantastic. It was they are on foot.
You're going to have to fill me in on that
Survivor Series this Sunday.
Ooh, another one I'm going to have to miss.
Wow, really? You used to watch these. You actually used to watch them, and I didn't.
I used to watch like WrestleMania,
Right.
and I still will. But the only way I get my wrestling fix is through the Cheap Heat podcast.
Right. Now on Spotify, right?
Spotify,
You
yeah.
got Stat Guy Greg just got married. Mazel tov to him.
Oh,
right?
look at
Yeah,
you.
I keep
Shout
up.
out.
I keep up. Stat Guy, shout out Stat Guy Greg.
Good.
But that was fun. Aaron Pico, interest in him still or no?
Oh, absolutely. I thought that performance was the one that showed like we're not looking at a glass cannon here. It's not going to be Aaron Pico goes in there and either knocks people out or gets knocked out. I think it was his most complete performance. It showed that there is a maturity in his game that is very clear, and I'm very interested. I think he's a future champ.
Yeah. The key word was maturity. Like going to Jackson's, I thought was really interesting because Brandon Gibson, Greg, like they kind of honed him in. He was no longer the wild, reckless guy who unfortunately got rocked a little early in his career. So yes, he has matured a lot. Hopefully that investment pays off. I'd love to see them do a similar thing with Jordan Burroughs, although a lot older than Aaron Pico was when they signed him to this deal. But that would be a really interesting move for them. And finally, speaking of Jacksons, how about Mr. Jon Jones showing up at Fight Ready? See that?
I did see that. It seems like Henry Cejudo's like putting together like an Avenger, like a Super Friends or Avengers down there with his recruiting, and then John hanging out at Henry's house on the couch, his mom serving the food. He looks very comfortable, let's say. John looks like he's fitting in down there.
I love it. What was interesting about it was someone told me the day before, like, hey, keep this under wraps. Jon Jones is at Fight Ready. And then there's Henry the next day, like,
all over
plastering it all over social media. Change of scenery, change of camp. Of course, we know about the wink thing, but Greg Jackson and Brandon Gibson seemed to be saying that, they were going to continue to train him elsewhere. And I'm sure he has the facility and the ability to, go anywhere and train even at home if he wants. But a change of scenery could be just what the doctor ordered for Mr. Jon Jones.
Yeah, perhaps. I think the thing about Jon Jones and what you always hear and, the scuttlebutt is always when Jon Jones is in the gym, Jon Jones is in the gym. It's getting him in the gym. Like, that's the thing. I don't necessarily think that Jon Jones has a fight motivation problem. It's just stay home, stay in training, get to the fight. Doesn't hurt to get a change of scenery. Does it hurt to get new looks? I think it will be good for a new division. I think it will be good for Jon Jones because there is so much tape out there on Jon Jones. Like, a lot of people kind of make the argument that like Jon Jones has fallen off or Jon Jones is getting washed or whatever because of how close the fights are these days. What I really think is happening is we've got 10 years of Jon Jones fights to look at. And there is a lot of tape, there is a lot of footage, and there are a lot of hungry competitors that are coming up to chase him. A new look, a different style, a different approach, Jon Jones, I think would only benefit him to do something a little bit outside of what he's been doing. With all due respect to his previous camp, I think they've gotten him to exactly where he is, but I think a new look would be good.
All right. Mr. New York Rick, thank you very much.
Pleasure as always.
We won't see you on Wednesday. You only work Mondays. We got to call it, what was it? Like, Rob Van Dam used to be the whole, what was he? Mr. Monday Night. Yeah, Mr. Monday Night. You're Mr. Monday Afternoon. I don't show up Wednesdays, only Monday afternoons. But really, congratulations to you and the team on the MMA Fighting Handle. That's a big one. I went in there, I actually appreciate it most because I first put out the tweet in the morning and then I'll go copy paste it to see who, to say who's on the show. Yeah. Shout out to Robert Pearson, the man, for those great graphics. Great one this week. You got the reference?
See, I thought it was like Kenny Rogers. I didn't get it.
Really?
I didn't get it.
You didn't get the reference?
No, I didn't get it.
HBK super kicking Marty Jannetty through the barbershop?
Now I got it. I didn't get it at
With
first.
new best friend Pat McAfee?
I was like, is that Kenny Rogers? Is that Kenny Powers? I couldn't quite land it.
Damn, I wish you didn't say that. Anyway, I copy paste, and one of the annoying things is always that MMA fighting isn't MMA fighting on Instagram.
Yeah.
I'd have to change it. Now I don't. You get what I'm saying?
I do. You can post it multiple places. It's at MMA Fighting. Follow if you're not.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There he is, Mr. New York Rick, joining us.